Hello and welcome to episode 31 of HardcoreGaming101.net's top 47,858 games of all-time podcast, where we objectively, definitively, and scientifically rank the games you nominate. My name is Xerxes, and guess what? It's just 2017. We're not calling it 2000 and anymore. My panelists today are...
I'm Bobinator.
I'm Carl.
I'm Sating.
On this podcast, we have 3 rules. Rule 1, all rankings are final, official, and scientifically accurate. Rule 2, you can nominate one game via a 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher. That's right, we've stopped accepting nominations on Twitter for the time being. We just have too many to deal with. It's a shame we're so popular, but I really am enjoying having, I just crave attention. I desperately crave attention. Rule number 3, you can nominate games that have already been nominated. Just don't nominate games we've already ranked. You want to see for yourself which games have been ranked, which games have been nominated? Check out the master list at bit.ly/47kgames. Okay, the next game we're going to be ranking is Deus Ex, which was nominated by @null_0x00_ on Twitter. Because where else would you have a name like that? It was developed by Ion Storm Austin and published by Eidos Interactive for the PC. Doesn't have any other releases.
I know I had one on the PS2, although that port was stratified. I haven't played the PS2 port, but apparently it does some things different. But the PC,
I mean, most of it, the PS2 doesn't kind of have the capacity to have, I think, as large areas. I think they're truncated a bit. Whether there's more load zones, I can't remember. It does look slightly nicer. I believe they do actually redo the graphics for that one. So
at least it did at the time, right? Like nowadays,
Nowadays, you might as well just play the PC release. I'm sure someone has done a HD texture pack where they throw everything into...
Yeah, you want my shifter, I think. I think that's the new thing.
Those HD texture packs are great for these old games because you got these blocky 6-polygon objects that have really smooth-ass textures. And you're just like, wow, that is a smooth-ass dodecahedron.
That's good old Unreal Engine 1 and its incipience and...
Was this one Unreal Engine 1 or is this on the UT engine? Because they are slightly different, aren't they?
I am seeing UE1 and
I don't care.
Anyway,
its earliest release date was June 23rd, 2000 in North America, and that seems like a lifetime ago. We played this game for a old Game Club 1990X podcast
as an early episode too, and it was interesting. I want to say it was the 8th or 9th one we ever did.
It's pretty early. I don't know how early it was. It was one of the first ones of, I think, what feels to me like the second season of the show or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we went on a special undertaking with this one where we had divided into 2 or 3 groups of participants, 4 or 5.
we shared save files, so we had different teams.
One of them Team Moron or something?
Yeah, there was Team
That was the one I was on. One of our members, Feynman, I believe, who I haven't heard from Feynman in ages, but besides that, he deliberately chose the augmentation that wasn't the really useful regeneration one. It was something for improving underwater breathing, which is totally useless, and yet we still finished that game file. It was just a little more difficult.
I think each time, somebody... Anyway, I mean, if you really want to hear what we did with Team Stupid and its exploits, go listen to that episode of Game Club 1990X. It's probably... you probably have to go to it through the HardcoreGaming101.net website, but it's there somewhere. I think I took it off the RSS just because I don't want older shows clogging up the feed too much, because people do go back and listen to them, which they shouldn't. So we're going to talk about it again, Deus Ex. In fact, we kind of hope people don't go back and listen to it, because we're going to probably repeat a lot of the same opinions. Not a terribly original person. But this game is, I mean, mostly it's remembered. It's a first-person shooter, kind of, but it's got stealth elements to it. It's got a lot of customization. It's got this augmentation system where you can upgrade parts of your robo body, Ghost in the Shell style, I guess.
It is.
I would say
RPG, all things considered, because of all the customization that you can augment J.C. Denton with, and whether you want to prioritize sneaking or fence or equipment load, there's all sorts of different ways to play the game.
In a lot of ways, it feels more like an RPG that's played via an FPS system. Mostly because the first-person shooting is infamously kind of odd.
I think it's like deliberately gimped because the game would be too easy if you were able to like snipe guards from 100 feet right out the starting gate. So no, you have to learn things and like get. You're able to like choose a starting weapon and distribute stats where you want to in the beginning. And it's like at first stealth is more helpful, but like you become a real hulking meat tank later, especially once you get the Dragon Tooth sword. That thing just totally murders. But yeah, you try and play it like an old school FPS like Doom or maybe even Half-Life. I mean, that was just 2 years prior. Try and play it straightforwardly, you're going to get stomped pretty quickly.
So you say it's a game that's kind of easy on balance, would you say? Is that accurate?
I don't know why I call it balanced. I would say like it's just nuts. Like
it's not balanced because balance was never their intention. I don't believe. Like as you said, like there's abilities that you can basically use 2 times in the game, and you spend a decent amount of points on those abilities if you decide to. But that's dumb. The game is like, you want to be good at swimming? Be good at swimming. It's not useful, but you can do it. And that's, if you want to be stealthy, you build stealthy. It doesn't mean it's going to be the best approach. This is before they sort of made a game with like maybe the Mass Effect style, where it's like, oh, you can be this, or you can be this, or you can be this. And the game will kind of conform itself around what you choose. This game doesn't do that. It's just like, you can be whatever you want, and if it doesn't fit the game we built, well, then it's going to be hard for you to play it. We don't care.
Sucks for you.
Yeah.
I mean, like they might have thought that like, oh, this will be like Doom or something where we can have like many different versions of the game come out in a relatively short period of time. They probably thought this early in the development cycle, and they're like, of course we can have abilities that we don't totally use because later on we'll have like, sequels and stuff that will definitely use these things that we built on. And it didn't quite come to pass, although now I think it could. It seems like we just had a new Deus Ex game come out just a few years after the previous one, and it's not all that different. But it scratches that itch. And the best thing about Deus Ex, in my opinion, is just the crazy crap you can do. It really is a game that just begs to be mishandled and abused. It's not like you play it straight. It's not that much fun, but the story gets a lot of credit for being not innovative, but being, complicated. But really it's just like a grab bag of like conspiracy theories all mashed together. It doesn't really matter.
The game certainly had an interesting atmosphere for the time, and it presents like various interesting psychological and theological concepts, but you could say that's all ultimately gravy. I mean, take what you will from Man in Shades discussing life and everything with a rudimentary AI.
Yeah. I would say like the 2 things to do are number 1, read the Illuminatus trilogy of novels from like, I believe the late 70s that has like, it's like a comedic novel kind of pastiche of every known conspiracy theory at the time. That's a great way of experiencing the story. Almost all that stuff gets repeated in Deus Ex, but taken a little bit more seriously. Or you could watch Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, especially the first season, and that's really what this game is going for.
I mean, it's all conspiracy theories are real, is basically.
Yeah, I mean, well,
everything is shadow puppets behind the scenes. I think there's like at least 3 different shadow organizations that are pulling the strings in different directions in and this is
pre-Assassin's Creed too.
There was also still kind of the point when Area 51 and all that was still a big plot point for so many people. Oh, it was so amusing.
Yeah, thanks to the X-Files. Thank you, X-Files.
Probably a better story than Pandora Directive, though.
Yeah, indeed.
Not that Pandora Directive was bad or anything, just...
No, it was a better story, though.
The Deus Ex story does a pretty good job of actually layering itself, because you do start off as the J.C. Denton, you're part of UNATCO, and you're just like, I've got to go stop these terrorists from destroying our society. And the game constantly unravels. Like, everything is just, it's got lots of breadcrumbs that are just, oh, but what if they're evil? But what if the people you're following are evil? Who are the evil people behind the evil people? And you're like, wow, what's going to happen?
It's been a while, but let me guess the story beats. First beat is, I am on a mission. My paymasters have told me to do this, but I find out something else is true.
Yeah, no.
Wait, I'm not done yet. Okay. Middle part, perhaps I am the terrorist. Perhaps I am to blame. Self-reflection, all right? And then Act 3, okay? Transcending both sides. A pox on both of your houses. I will become the new god of this brave new world. And yeah.
That is literally one of the 3 endings you can get when you merge with this like super AI and essentially become like...
I believe that is the canonical ending, right?
Actually, all 3 of them were canonical at the same time as Invisible... The controversial sequel, Invisible War, kind of said that all 3 of them might have happened, but I don't know how many people want to count Invisible War because that game is kind of problematic.
Invisible War was so problematic, it basically killed the franchise until a few years ago when they rebooted it with a prequel. I mean, that is a hefty,
which is kick-ass and totally nailed what you're supposed to do with this game, which is do crazy crap. And now we're going to shift gears from talking about the story and start talking about the kind of cool stuff you can do in the game.
Well, this game is an early example of an FPS with a full inventory system. It's not... I think you can assign things to your keys, if I remember correctly, but you just carry so much crap. Like you can carry a bunch of rocket launches, but you have to choose because you can't fill your inventory with everything. So, like Resident Evil 4, if everyone's played that, it has a inventory Tetris system, which is really cool. That lets you carry whatever you want. You can pick up random items in the game and, put them somewhere else.
The Tetris system probably being like, I think the Diablo type thing where you got like the grid and then you can just like throw in like items that take up X number of squares in the grid. I don't remember this part of Deus Ex, to be honest.
It had that, right? It did have a grid system.
I will say I always do like games where there's just like so much random crap lying around you can pick up that doesn't do anything useful.
It's funny. We just talked about Shenmue so recently.
Yeah, like everything can be picked up. There's really what's great about this, I think, is in terms of, and why I think it's more, in retrospect, why I think it's more of an RPG than an FPS is how much you can actually talk to people. There's so much like just talking to people and just random crap will happen. There's like sub characters all over the game. The game is not a bunch of linear shooting sequences. You have a huge amount of points where it's like, now you're in a hub, go talk to dozens of people and just, they have different crap that they'll say and they'll do different things. And there's subplots that are moving constantly through the game that you can follow if you feel like, like there's the alternate, the last generation of cyborgs, they're always there. Natasha and the Russian guy whose name eludes me. Gunter. Or is he German then?
Natasha is actually Anna, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know where you're Natasha from.
You're getting this
Natasha's probably from GoldenEye. We played that one. Where you have a female person who speaks in
that was Natalia.
Natasha and Boris. Natalia and Boris.
Okay,
good old Boris. Alan Cummings' finest hour.
Cut me out. Yes. But
the game actually has 3 hubs. New York, then Hong Kong, then Paris. And it's like the game's kind of divided into 4 acts, 3 centering around those hubs, and then the last quarter is just you're basically on the run because you gotta get moving and stop the giant super billionaire from basically taking over the world.
Hey, you said super billionaire, not regular billionaire.
Well, he attempts to become like one with the super AI. Well, let's not fall back into the plot again. Anyway, he's evil, and his his dragon, his number 1, is voiced by Tom Hall of id Software fame. The game definitely goes places, and there's all sorts of like various sub things I remember with all the hubs. Like there's this entire branch all the way down the sewers of New York, because of course there is. It's like this giant corporate building. Hong Kong gets raided, and all these dance clubs. Like every area creates a really interesting atmosphere that, I have to also give credit to the music. There are several composers on it, probably most notable is Alexander Brandon from Tyrion fame, and you've probably heard some music from this game before, like the one goes like... Yeah, I'm not...
Okay. The best thing about this game, I mean, that's all assuming you play the game as intended. But I think the game also allows you to do just crazy crap, which I keep alluding to, but not expanding upon. But like one of the main things I found out, and this is I'm going to cover some old ground here because I did talk about this on the GC9X show. But what I really love about the game is it's just ability to, like, you can upgrade various parts of your various augmentations and weapons and skills, and that allows you to just do stuff that you don't normally get to do in an FPS type format of a game. And one of those things, like for me, my favorite thing is like to upgrade like the stealth and speed elements way high, and which allows me to like run into a room, stealth mode, duck under a table, and no one notices me, and then I can just like start just screwing with people that way, and or like upgrading your strength really high and then like lifting up desks and stuff and throwing them at people or barring doors and things like that. It's pretty cool. I mean, that's the kind of thing that, it's frustrating because there are other elements of the game where you're kind of like, why can't I do this? Why can't I go over that, like, waist high, like pylon fence type thing? But for the most, that's par for the course for this vintage of game. And I think the amount of crazy crap you can do is definitely, it's a game that it's worth coming back to. Maybe less so now that we've got Human Revolution and stuff like that, which do a lot of the same stuff.
Well, I will say the age of the game also means that the AI and the areas are kind of built in a certain way, and it's fun to play with them and mess up them because they don't have like a realistic approach to things. They kind of do things in really like broken, jerky ways, and it's just like it's funny to watch them sort of bounce around like confused.
Yeah, I think it's like possible to somehow duplicate items if you fiddle with the inventory just right. I forget exactly how to go about that, but I mean, it's an RPG in the sense that you can totally break it, and I think that breaking RPGs is the best way to go about them. You make your own entertainment besides what the game gives you, and it just becomes a whole lot more fun.
I will say, because Deus Ex has the distinct advantage of being, I think, a damn good game before you start breaking it, and I think that is a big part of its overall popularity, is that this game can be taken seriously, and you can also just dick around with it, and the game is receptive to you dicking around with it. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do what GoldenEye does, where like an alarm system will trigger, and then you just have unlimited enemies until you die. It never does that. I'm pretty sure this game, every area is actually, the enemies in the area are just, that's it. Like, those are the enemies that are there. Once you clear an area full of enemies, they don't come back, and you have like, you just get to mess around like every area.
The enemies are also like way deadlier too. If they shoot you, like you die a lot faster than you do in GoldenEye. Let's rank this.
Well,
were you going to put a number on it? Because I was thinking of a place. Because my first sort of feel is below Turrican.
Now, why would you say that, Cal?
Well, I like this game quite a bit. It is a game that I think was kind of out of its own time. I don't really know where this game came from. It's in that it's not a particularly great first-person shooter. I think we can agree, like, as far as first-person shooters go, it's not amazing. It's a, if you compare it, like, Half-Life is a much more solid first-person shooter experience, if that's what you're after. And on the same hand, it's probably not the most complicated RPG ever. It's some kind of weird, out-of-place game that I don't think ever really was successfully redone, except maybe in some of Bethesda's more ambitious titles, or in some of the more recent games like the other Deus Ex games, or on Dishonored or something, which took a lot longer to come out. But I think it's really great. I feel like it's didn't have enough of an influence on games to really push itself much higher. I think it's a fantastic game to the side of all the other games that exist. Because I haven't played many games that I think have the same feel as Deus Ex. Like, it's a very, very distinctive game. It's not I think, one of the more without its problems games, because this game does have some issues. If you build wrong, especially if it's your first time playing the game, you be like, this is bad. This is really I'm having a bad time.
That's the curse of Western RPGs in general. And while this game is maybe a bit lighter on the RPG elements, like I don't think you can min-max whatever the hell min-maxing means. I always forget that. But I really hate to say this about a game from 2000, but it kind of shows its age a little heavily in this modern scape. I mean, 16 years isn't that much time, is it? Well,
I feel like, I don't know, you guys can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I really don't feel like, I feel like Deus Ex felt old when it came out. It was just such an odd game. Like, it has more in line with these crazy broken games from, like, the early 90s. You know,
I compare it mostly just like a System Shock or maybe Ultima Underground more than
I was going to say Ultima Underground. Yeah, that was System Shock as well, definitely. I mean, it is kind of a...
It feels like that. It feels like this weird kind of like they had sort of ignored first-person shooters that had been made before it, and it's only because it's on the Unreal Engine that they built it the way that they did, and it's just like, well, we got all these shooter bits that are already built in, so that's fine. We can just use that. But it's such like an odd experience that even when I played it in 2001, I think when I played it not immediately on release, but a year or two after. And I played it, I'm like, It took effort to get into it then. Like, it was just like, whoa, this is really awkward and strange, and everything feels off. But once you get into it, you're like, okay, yeah, I see where they're going. This, but no other games took from this, really, I don't think. Like, it's just like, this is a weird game that's sort of over there. Maybe Stalker. Stalker's probably one of the few games I think of that had a very similar approach to just weird open areas that you kind of dick around in, but there's also a plot.
I was thinking about it taking some effort to get in. Isn't that the case for a lot of Western RPGs, or is that just me?
Most Western RPGs, yeah. I mean, if you're used to playing Western RPGs, I think you'd be into those. But the extra spin on Deus Ex is that it doesn't use a turn-based battle system, or it uses a first-person system on it.
I'd say it's more shooter than RPG. It's not like, say, Elder Scrolls, where like it's very dependent on your stats and computations behind what you do, so to speak. Like, when you shoot somebody, you don't have to worry about your hit chance or anything like that, just your accuracy.
It's an interesting way that they did the accuracy in this, because you basically have to wait ages to shoot something when the game starts, and you have to level up your various guns to actually hit things. Or you get the sword and you just smack them, which is generally.
I'm thinking. I can't remember. Where'd you say, Cal?
I was just putting it below Tarkin as kind of an initial placement.
So that is at Tarkin is currently, I believe, ranked number 18. Out of however many we have now, which is ridiculous. Out of 119. My God.
I'd say your own Tarkin is fair. I'm okay with that.
I mean.
I really do like Turrican, but...
I want to hear you guys' opinions on this, yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at, so underneath Turrican, for the sake of the theater of the mind type thing here, we're looking at number 16 is Kix, number 17 is Alien Soldier right now, number 18 is Turrican, number 19 is Super Castlevania 4, number 20 is FTL. I mean, I feel like I'd put it above Carmen Sandiego, which is number 21 right now, and below FTL. And I'm just saying that because I feel like FTL kind of has a level of customization and kind of spontaneity and like replayability that this game doesn't have. But they're kind of functioning on the same level.
I put it below Tarkin because I wasn't quite sure.
I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, I think like FTL is a game that probably more successfully throws together its systems ultimately, and that's not because Deus Ex is like some sort of like crappily made game. It's that they made it in very early on. It's quite an early hybrid game in a lot of ways.
It's incredible for what it is and for when it was released.
Well,
wait.
I'm going to get some garbage thrown at me for this, but
yes,
I would rank Deus Ex still above FTL because I find Deus Ex itself a more engaging game that, you know, you're always in the moment of action, whereas FTL is not quite as active, or, well, I guess I didn't get far enough in FTL.
Really? I mean, in Deus Ex, there's a lot of walking around looking for the guy you're supposed to look for.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
even in some of the combat areas, because this game obviously doesn't tell you where to go. It's not that kind of game. So it's like, oh, you need to do this. And it's like, all right.
There's a lot of walking around like abandoned sewer tunnels and subway platforms.
I honestly haven't had much
even when you're in a base, just go through different doors and try and like find out which door in which room you're supposed to have been in. Even the opening area, it's like get to the statue, and you will be like, where is the statue?
I don't know if this is just my experience, but I've never really had much problem with navigating in this game. It's not a
navigation thing. It's like some of the objectives are just plain boring, which is a serious problem. Like that's not. It's a problem that comes out of their desire. It's a Shenmue issue, really. It's a problem that comes out of a desire to like try to take video games into a new direction, but it's like maybe we don't want to go in that direction. Maybe the point of games is to be fun and different from reality. And Deus Ex is a lot of like, go find that guy and talk to him, and therefore once you do that, you can do this. And I don't know whether that part's fun. It kind of seems to slow and bog the game down. Whereas
that's a tricky one, because it is part of like the game's, because the game does have a theme of sort of decay, and everything is a little bit a downbeat, because obviously there's a plague that's wiping out, the poor, essentially, because that's the way it works.
For me, the game's atmosphere is like the primary reason to play it. Even if I'm not doing much all that exciting, just the sort of mood that the areas create and the soundtrack to complement it. It gives a really unique feeling I haven't really found any other games. Not even
probably one of the best examples of cyberpunk for a long while. Really.
Yes. Hey, we haven't used the word cyberpunk yet. I'm surprised nobody's actually dropped that one.
I feel stupid whenever I say it.
I mean, you don't hack any ice, and if you don't hack ice, as far as I'm concerned, it's not cyberpunk. You need to have that phrase needs to come up.
Hey,
in your thing.
You get hacking.
Ridiculous, like Oakley-esque sunglasses. Some tattoos, an arm that looks like belongs in like a steam engine, and some weird drug called like I don't know what tech, maybe tech.
Mango.
Tech kills.
Kids have to worry about
tech and die.
The kids have to learn about tech war sooner or later. Where's it going? Yeah, you do actually get some hacking skills. There's like all right,
look. We're talking about ranking this game. You can do everything in this game. There's no point in talking about if you imagine it, it can occur in some kind of questionably entertaining way.
It's pretty cool. Some of it is a bit lame, and I guess I'll jump in real quick. You've got a lock picking skill and a hacking skill, and sometimes doors are locked by hacking. Sometimes they're locked by lock picks, and it's like, wow, what a choice! This is great. I totally
The game is a kind of stone soup of weird RPG FPS elements that you're not really quite sure what the secret ingredient is. You just know that there is one and it works and the game is great. But it's hard to put your finger on why it's great in a way, because a lot of it just seems like it's like Fallout, really, or Fallout 2, where it's just like the game is broken as hell. And that's kind of what the point of the game is. It's just to like, what kind of stuff can you do? It's a sandbox game in a way.
That's
why I'm saying that's below FTL, because I'm saying FTL has like a sense of purpose, like it doesn't bog itself down in some lame story, and there's it's just about like what happens, what are you going to do with the stuff you're given, whereas I feel like it's a much tighter and more satisfying game than Deus Ex. Not to take anything away from Deus Ex, we're still putting it in like the top 5%.
My question here is, do we want to coin toss this? We haven't done a coin toss in ages.
I was thinking that's probably what it's going to come down to. Bob, what do you think?
I'm honestly not sure. I guess I feel like Deus Ex is a big deal. I feel like it might be a little better than a deserved coin toss. I'd say, FTL is pretty influential. It's done a lot, but so is Deus Ex.
Yeah,
I guess they're both kind of equal in what they do and how important they are.
Well, let me put it this way: if you had to all the other games in the world, they accept them as a given, like the games that they influence and all that stuff. If you could only play, you had to pick one game that you could still play and another game that you could never touch again. FTL, Deus Ex, which would it be? Which goes into the forever furnace, as Cal so eloquently coined about a year ago, and which one stays on the shelf, so to speak?
I hate to say it, but I think I might have to go with FTL in this case.
Okay.
That's a bit of an unfair metric. FTL can potentially be replayed infinitely because it's procedurally generated.
No, it's not, because what this is about is not really the procedurally generated part, because really the same kind of it's only a handful of stuff that really changes game to game. You're always there's a lot of different things, but the basic thrust of the game is the same. It's just a matter of which do you get to choose and which just happens to you. Whereas with Deus Ex, there have been sequels to Deus Ex that you probably should play first. I would play Human Revolution before playing Deus Ex now. Wouldn't you?
I think they both have different yet both substantial experiences to offer.
Putting Deus Ex right below FTL is no slight.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I can see you're going to go there. Asterisk, I disagree with the result, but I think we're all resigned to this anyway, so place it where you will.
The true question that we have here is, did anyone play the multiplayer for Deus Ex?
I did not.
I forgot there was multiplayer.
It has multiplayer, and I bet no one even remembers that it exists. It's fantastic. Well put in addition, that one.
Deus Ex came in just before, multiplayer was the only thing that people gave a crap about in FPS games, so... Or maybe it was happening just as that was overturning, so it got in kind of lucky when it did.
Oh, I can't think of a worse thing to do with Deus Ex than multiplayer. So, Deus Ex goes right below Faster Than Light, right above Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
I'd say that's fair.
Okay, fair.
Yay! All right, so our next game is Gomola Speed, which was nominated by Fel_temp-reparatio on iTunes, who said, an entertaining, this is in a 5-star iTunes review, Fel_temp-reparatio said, an entertaining analysis of exactly the sorts of old games I love. Highly recommended for retro gamers. I'm hoping they cover more oddball obscurities, so I'm requesting Gomola Speed for the PC Engine, and that is indeed what we are going to discuss. Gomola Speed was developed by UPL and published by UPL for the PC Engine. Earliest release date is September 28th, 1990 in Japan. I believe it did not leave Japan. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, it's PC Engine exclusive so far as I know, so it never reached the TurboGrafx 16, as it were. And,
which is always confusing, because this game, like many games, it's all in English. Everything, I don't think the manual's in English, but the game's in-game tutorial is in English, so...
Yes.
Whatever, so, let's not bother releasing it.
This game is indeed... an oddball obscurity, as our nominator described it. It is interesting because it's kind of like a cross between, I would say, the old PC game Snake, or like most people know as being on every Nokia cell phone made in the 1990s and early 2000s. But it's crossed with that, and I would say, what else? Like
Bomberman,
Asteroids or Bomberman,
Gauntlet. Maybe a more modern version of Snake we know as Snake Rattle and Roll, with having to eat up all the food bits as well. This game feels kind of like a Frankenstein's monster of various other concepts meshed together.
I've also seen people include quicks.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
That's also important. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember myself actually coming up with that too. It's a weird mishmash of various other games, and I guess we're going to discuss if it really works or not.
Well, let me put it this way.
Could work.
I like this game. My problem with it is that playing it is a physical ordeal unlike any other.
You're not kidding.
So the basic thing is you start out as a glowing orb of sorts who is moving around a play field. Some of them scroll, some of them are single screen.
You might or might not be the Gomola. We have no freaking idea.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, we don't even know.
Give you as the Gomola.
Good luck finding the manual and translating it.
We don't even know what a Gomola is. I mean, the closest I could find was that Gamora was one of Ultraman's enemies, but that obviously has nothing to do with this game.
I think it's supposed to be I think it's a bastardization of the word Gamora. But I'm not sure because even that wouldn't make
that doesn't lead anywhere.
As the
there were a lot of
less famous city, like the city of Sodom got like a whole sex act named after it. Whereas Gamora, there's no
character.
Yeah, there's no Gamora-y. You know what I'm saying?
It could be. I do think it could be one of those situations. Sometimes Japanese things will take like two English words and they'll chop them in half and stick them together. So they might have done that to make this name, and we don't know what English words they took, but. Who knows?
Yeah, it's semantics in the long run. All I
think
know
it would be like a combination of, like maybe Galaxy and Guacamole. Maybe I don't know. It's really hard to say.
It is a mystery. I mean, I don't know what any of those words have to do with being like a cyber snake that can only digest food by encircling it with its long body. Except it doesn't even start out. It just starts out as a head. Yeah.
It has to eat its own ass to produce more body components.
It's a beautiful cycle. It's natural. No, I mean you collect segments of your creepy robo snake body, but your other job is to encircle food, which is the part that kills my thumb. My left thumb is burning. It is on fire.
Yeah,
not in a pleasant way. It is horrible.
I'm wondering if this game had some sort of weird joystick or analog controller for the PC Engine that no one really knows about, like the NES Advantage or something like that. Because playing this on a pad is very impractical.
I felt the same way. I was like, surely this thing came with an NES Max-esque, special controller that would allow you to encircle your food without ruining every joint in your left thumb.
Yeah.
It definitely screams out for a 360 axis controller. So it's very strange because this developer mostly developed arcade games, I believe, which doesn't make sense in itself because that arcades very rarely had 360 degree motion. They did sometimes have custom controllers to give them 360 degrees, but maybe it's this is a very odd one because it's PC Engine exclusive, and so it was always apparently intended to be played with a little D-pad. And
looking at the manual, a scan of the manual, which is on pcengine.co.uk, a great website, by the way. It shows a regular PC Engine controller. It doesn't show.
I have no doubt that this game was. If you were going to play this game, I would say almost definitely you would have had a regular PC Engine controller, regardless.
So what's the issue you're having controlling it, just to be clear?
Basically, you need to connect segments of... You need to loop around enemies. Now, if you've ever drawn a circle, you'll understand that it's very difficult to draw a circle with straight lines.
Yeah. Right.
It's like you can only move in 8 directions.
It's like doing a... what's Ryu's spinning uppercut move called? Shoryuken,
yeah.
Or Dragon Punch.
Numerous times in numerous directions just to swallow a glowing food pellet.
Okay, yeah, that does sound kind of bad.
It is incredibly frustrating.
The food pellets move, They move. They're not
Yeah.
even stationary.
And your own body segments move too for some reason. Everything's always active in this game. I mean, you can speed up if you hold one of the buttons. I guess that's where the speed comes from the title. But it feels a little counterintuitive that in order to engulf anything, you almost always have to have all of your body segments, but you're such a big target, and any of the enemies bite your ass, you lose however many segments.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. So you've got enemies that wander around the play field, and if they touch the head of your, I guess we're going to call you Mr. Gomola or something, like you'll die. If they touch any other part of you, it will separate the back end of like whatever, every segment of your body from the point of contact on back will separate and scatter, and you'll have to collect them again, which is really frustrating because you have to have a pretty long body to be able to encircle the food pellets and other power-up items.
This is completely deliberate because the later levels, they keep your body parts all over the level, so you have to sort of run the gauntlet of the level collecting your bits to then begin encircling the pellets in order to open the exit.
Now, the continue feature is pretty generous because it'll allow you to continue at whatever state you died in. But a lot of times you'll die in a state of just complete, non-Gomola-ness where your body isn't long enough and you have to go back. It is crazy.
The stages they don't reset the pellets. If you manage to eat all the pellets and die, you'll still have all the pellets consumed and you can just go to the exit. So that's especially useful on the boss levels, so you don't have to replay the segment of the boss where you have to actually get to the boss.
I think it's even true even after you continue. Like, it has lives, but if you continue, I think
this is one of those. I don't think it would do that. The continues are only 4 or 5 symbols, so they can't save everything.
I was going to say, aren't they limited? So
the odd thing about this game is it's one of those bizarre games that has a life system, but also it gives you a continue code that will let you start from that point anyway.
That's right. Yeah. Why did developers do that anyway? It just seems like artificial challenge that you have to. You're not in any real danger as long as you have this password. It just seems kind of odd that they limit your continue.
Okay, well, I will say that as far as I understand, the last 5 levels will not give you continue codes, or you can't continue.
Other developers
Ninja Gaiden
did
difficulty.
Developers did that too a lot back then.
Although there is a debug code that will let you jump to those levels if for some reason you need to finish this game but don't have the skill to get to the... Anyway.
It doesn't surprise me they do that considering UPL made so many other arcade games.
Yeah, this might be an arcade game that they just went, no, let's put it on the PC Engine. It does feel very much like an arcade game.
I wish
including the fact that the stages are just kind of random tile sets, and the music is just the same music. Like, it loops 5 or 6 different songs. Like, each stage is just the song, and then it goes back to the first song.
The music's cool at first, but it does admittedly get redundant the more you play, unfortunately. Still, I do like that PC Engine synth, though.
I actually wouldn't be as generous to the music. I'd say it's one of the weaker but not terrible PC Engine soundtracks, considering if you put this against Blazing Lasers, which is just rocking out the whole time.
It's not
this game sounds kind of like Columns-ish in terms of just sort of dry music that's but I'm a robot snake encircling monsters and dropping mines to blow things up. Why is it
You know what this game weirdly reminds me of is, what's it called, Mesopotamia or...
Summer Assault, yeah. Hey, I was thinking the exact same thing before we actually got to talking about it.
It really isn't anything like it, but it feels like the same kind of oddball action abstraction.
It doesn't have that similar Greco-Roman theme, but then you're suddenly a giant snake or a slinky. It's just what?
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It's a weird abstract object adventure action game, but it's got this kind of there's a skill to it, and if the controller didn't just murder my fingers, I would feel a lot better about this game. I feel like with the right controller, it would be a lot more fun.
That I think it would improve this game immensely. I hate the fact that you get touched on the head, you're dead instantly, no matter what. I really wish you could get a little shield, maybe.
I wish it would just
because there is a hyper mode power up, but it lasts 8 seconds, and that makes you invulnerable for 8 seconds. It's
we didn't even mention the bomb thing.
Yeah, you got the bomb. I tried to mention it, but yeah, you got a bomb that you can drop, and it always comes out the very last segment of your body, so it can be very tricky to aim.
Yeah, I had a lot of trouble.
So you think
with
it comes from your head, but no, it comes from your butt. And
well, that kind of makes sense if we're talking robot snake anatomy. So,
yeah, so the catch is, but the enemies do actually track to them, which is really thoughtful. Like when you drop one, cool. Enemies are attracted to the bomb. They go towards it.
And it has a pretty large blast radius. In fact, painfully large in later levels where you can die a lot of times.
You can kill yourself with your own bomb.
How come that you die when you run into one of your own bomb explosions, but it only stuns enemies? That's weak sauce.
Well, you suck. Like, your character sucks.
Wow, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, you're
you can bomb an enemy, encircle them, and then they will eventually respawn. So they are kind of infinite anyway, which is
mean, it's kind of a weird... I like
you do get another power-up, which I wanted to quickly mention.
Okay, go ahead.
Get power-ups. If you get far enough, you can collect a pellet shot that you basically have to encircle yourself, and then you'll shoot a bullet at an enemy. It's a very... weird, what else can we cram into this game using just the mechanisms we have? So
you've also got those stages where you've got the weird field that you uncover by doing circles.
Right, the bonus stages that you kind of unlock.
Well, they're not bonus stages because you can die, right?
No, you can get killed in them, but you get lives in them, which makes me think that they are bonus.
You can potentially keep farming lives, if I'm not mistaken. So, there we go. You can bring
lives are meaningless.
Yeah.
Would you say that you need to farm lives? It sounds like a pretty rough game.
You would need to farm lives. The problem is your left thumb would probably just fall off of your hand before you ever beat the game anyway.
I mean, here's the thing. I do have to give this game credit. I mean, Cal said this before we actually got the recording this right now, but I do have to give this game credit for being a PC Engine exclusive that is not a shoot-'em-up or a platformer, so it stands out a lot for being what it is. It's
pretty rad, yeah.
It's just that, on the other hand, it's original, but does originality necessarily make it a good game?
Yeah, well, let me put it this way. This is a game, a lot of times we're talking about old games where we're like, this is a great old game, but, a later game that picked up on this did it much better, and therefore we got to rank it a little bit lower. Whereas with this game, it's like, you know what? They took Snake and they did something with it, and it's pretty cool. And if it had a better control mechanism, you had to be honest, on a touch screen, this would be a kick-ass smartphone game, because you wouldn't have to worry about murdering your joints in your hand to play this game. It would be very natural. It would even work pretty well on the DS with a stylus.
A stylus control with this would be great. I really wish you could make your Snake a little longer too. That felt
it's a kind of game where you feel like now it's a very rare retro game where you look at it and you're like, you know what? Someone should really go back to this, and nobody has done it because nobody played it.
It is interesting that you would think a bunch of, we are aware of Snake and this style of game where you eat things and you get longer or bigger or whatever, and it's quite a normal genre. But this is 1990, and there was no reason for them to think, so what do we want to make today? Let's make a game where you play as a snake that has to encircle things to get food and shoot bullets at giant bosses.
This is a one dude game. This is a game that was developed and conceptualized by one dude. And
it seems like it would be an indie game if this were released today. Actually, it's an indie game for its time almost. I mean, I wish I could tell you more about UPL, but they were a pretty C-list company. So,
but this is good. Look. All I can say is next time I have the chance to look at a bunch of Hue cards for cheap, I'm going to be looking for Gomola Speed because I really like this game. I want to have this in my collection because I feel like this is a game. It's not really a game for me, but it's a game for somebody out there. Yeah. And I really hope that somebody who makes games plays Gomola Speed and is oh, I know what to do with this. I don't know what it is because I'm not. I just critique games. Scientifically and perfectly, but I don't create games, and I couldn't create games because I have no actual talent. But what I will say is that I am spotting this game, and I want to thank Feltemp Reparatio for bringing it to my attention because I had never played it before, and I like it a lot. I just wish it didn't hurt so much. Where do we want to put this?
I want to put it genuinely. I can't put it super high because it's too rough.
Me neither. I feel like it needs like no game should be this painful, like physically painful. But I if it were operating off of a like I said, a touch screen or even like a trackball, like a Marble Madness type thing, I think you could do something with it that it would feel a lot more natural and a lot less painful.
Yeah, it's a game with a lot of potential. It just needed a lot of refinement.
I'm gonna put it below Glover, above New Zealand Story, because I'll say New Zealand Story is just painful because it's a very clumsily designed game that is very cute, but that's about it. Whereas Glover is slightly better than Gomola Speed simply because it doesn't like I don't gonna get arthritis, like crippling arthritis by playing Glover, but I feel like it's the same kind of problem where you've got a game that is really clever, but just something about it was not, like there was a critical point in the development cycle where somebody should have said like, oh no, you got to make this a lot easier, or else people are not gonna stick with this. You're gonna lose a really good idea on poor execution, and I feel like that's kind of the issue. And I'd also like to say like I really admire Glover just because it has so much more personality. Whereas Gomola Speed is kind of oddly soulless in a way. Not in
it's really soulless. Like it's surprising.
It almost feels like
weird abstractions. It's
like
Geometry Wars, in a
biomechanical, not really in like a Giger-esque way, but like something about its design feels so alien and detached that
it reminds me of stuff like a Sega game like Alien Syndrome, but without even like the mild Sega charm that one had. It's just like they've really stripped out any charm and just left like a kind of clinical aesthetic.
Something about a lot of TurboGrafx or PC Engine I mean, always feel really generic in general to me. I don't know what it is.
I think it was really like an artistic choice at the time. I think there was an idea of like, oh, we've got sort of 16-bit graphics, like let's do something really kind of high concept and go nuts and really do something that looks like it's the same. It's like I can't believe I'm saying this. There's kind of like a vaporwave aesthetic to it, where it's just kind of like oddly like abstraction, like weird CGI renderings just for its own sake kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's not predominantly blue and pink. How's that equate?
No, he's not saying it's vaporwave. He's saying that what you've got is you got a game where it's like someone made a game that looked like this, and then all the developers on the PC Engine were like, "Oh yeah, we should just make something that looks like that."
Yeah, a game that looks like a screensaver kind of thing. At the time, you don't know this. If you weren't alive at the time and cognizant of this, you won't know this. But there was really something like high concept and artistic and flashy about this game at the time it was released. I'm sure that people were like, "Oh, this is really cool, like I like this abstraction thing, like let's make abstract games." And kind of in the same way that we have like way too many pixel art games now, like games that really probably shouldn't be pixel art but just are because that's a cool thing.
What you're saying is like they probably didn't say what aesthetic would best suit our Gomola game. They went, this looks cool, let's make our Gomola game look like that. They didn't think about our Gomola game.
Like there were several Gomola people like, let's make our Gomola game different.
Because like I don't know, like I feel like if you had have made this, I don't want to tell the developers in this case, especially because it was fucking 17 years ago at this point.
But more than that, are you kidding me? 1990?
Sorry, 27 27 years. I don't want to step in on them and be like, well, but I feel like if you had have done like a lighter, more cartoony aesthetic, something like the Bonk games, just really like fill it with like a comical essence, you'd be like, yeah, it's just encircling, it's fun.
What if it had googly eyes, and what if there was like a prepubescent girl like straddling the ball centipede?
It probably would have been a lot more distinct. As you look at it, like the thing is, even as we like were suggested to look at Gomola Speed, and by the way, I do agree with your placement, so I think that's where it's going to end up. even when you look at it, it's like we got told, oh, check out Gomola Speed. It's like, okay, cool. I look at it, I'm like, wow, this looks so not interesting. Like, even though you pitch such an interesting concept, and it is like wacky, crazy, like just random mechanics that have all been thrown together, and it almost does actually work.
I really
looking at it, you're just like, your eyes just immediately glaze over. You're like,
in a way,
great.
I mean, I like the abstraction of it. Like I said, like there is like a vaporwave type like appeal to it. We're just kind of like, why would anyone do this? Just because you can. It's like, why not? Like, we've got extra resolution to work with. Like, let's make like weird abstract like computer CGI like metal-ish blobs.
A little confused as to where the conversation went, to be honest. I'm sorry.
It doesn't really matter. I'm saying right below Glover, right?
It's right below Glover, above the New Zealand story. And unless you other two think that it's not a good
anyone
placement,
dare disagree?
No, I'm good with it.
Okay, we're done. That's all for this episode of Hardcore Gaming 101's Top Games Podcast. Special thanks goes out to @null_0x00_ and @_Withag on Twitter. Thank you for those underscores. Thanks you guys for nominating those games, and thanks as well to those of you who haven't gotten to yet. We will be getting to you soon. And thanks as well to my lovely co-hosts and compatriots, and to our editor, Jeff Rude, our chiptune composer, Miteki, and, of course, to the support and feedback of listeners like you. You can support this podcast by making a small monthly donation at patreon.com/HG101. I know I did. You can also help us out by subscribing to the HG101 YouTube channel, which is fantastic. You can listen to these episodes again if you want to go back and revisit an older episode. Especially like with a game, you're like, when did they talk about that? It's probably on YouTube by now, and you can watch somebody play it while we talk about it. It's fantastic. You can also, of course, help us out by going on Twitter and subscribing to @GCINext, that's me, or @HG_101. But most importantly, help us claw our way into the podcasting firmament by getting on iTunes, subscribing to HG101, and giving us a 5-star review. Do it, or the next podcast should be online within 6 months. It's currently undergoing preparation and will be operational within 6 months. Our people will begin to report on its progress within 6 months. Until next week, keep keeping it real.
Xerxes, please never say straddle the ball centipede ever again.
Straddle the ball centipede? I can't say that again?
You just did, damn it.
Can I get it? Can I get one more out? I'm going to say it again. Straddle the ball centipede. All right, I'm done. I'm never going to say it again for the rest of my life. It's gone.
I hope someone makes a vaporwave song with Xerxes saying that.
Straddle the ball centipede. Straddle the ball centipede. Straddle the ball centipede. Straddle the ball centipede. Straddle the ball centipede.